Welcome to Canadian Justice. I'm Christine Van Gyn, and today we're discussing a new lawsuit against the University of British Columbia over academic freedom. Is the university failing in its statutory duty of institutional neutrality by taking political positions on various issues? And if so, is this creating a chill on faculty and students who disagree with the political positions the university is taking? That's what four professors and one former graduate student of UBC are alleging in a new lawsuit. The claim is supported by the organization I work for, the Canadian Constitution Foundation. The BC University Act states that a university must be non-sectarian and non-political in principle, but UBC has taken a number of actions that these professors allege undermine that principle and undermine their academic freedom. These include the university making declarations on the war between Israel and Hamas, requiring those who are applying for faculty positions to express agreement with DEI doctrines or other political beliefs, and declaring that UBC is on unceded Indigenous land. The case has already garnered significant media attention. Here today to discuss the case is one of the applicants, Professor Michael Tresco, as well as the lawyer for the Canadian Constitution Foundation and my colleague, Josh DeHaas. Thank you both so much for joining me today. Michael, I'll start with you. Why is it so important to bring this case against UBC?
Well, if we believe that UBC is undermining academic freedom, then we really need to work to support that, to bring that back into play, and to get UBC to live up to its responsibility according to this statute to protect academic freedom. Um,
Can you explain what academic freedom means for our viewers who might not be in academia, and why this is such an important principle?
yeah, academic freedom in a way kind of overlaps with freedom of speech, but it is more of a not only a right but even a responsibility of scholars within the university community to pursue lines of inquiry as they see fit and as they best understand them, without any kind of hindrance or constraint, both by their own institution making, say, statements that impinge upon or weigh in on academic matters, or other forms of constraint that is from within their community or within their from the public even. The university itself, UBC, has a statement that says that academic freedom is the right to pursue what seems fruitful avenues of inquiry, to teach and to learn unhindered by external and non-academic constraints.
Josh, anything to add there about the value of academic freedom?
I think Professor Tresco is absolutely right, and there are parallels to freedom of speech. And the idea here is that people can't take go where their inquiries leads them if they can't put forward unpopular ideas or challenge the status quo. Then we don't make progress. We don't advance, whether we're talking about science or philosophy or any of those aspects of society. And so you need professors and students to be able to do that and they can't when the administration is taking sides.
So, Josh, obviously, Professor Tresco is one of the applicants in this case, but he's not the only one. There are three other professors, and a graduate student or a former graduate student. What can you tell us about those other applicants? What their interest is, what their scholarly studies are?
Yeah, well, they all share the same goal, which is to protect academic freedom and to restore institutional neutrality. One of them's a man named Andrew Irvin. He's been with UBC for decades. He's a philosopher, and he's served in various academic administrative roles. And so he really knows what it takes to preserve academic freedom. And he's been working internally to try and fix some of these problems, but hasn't. And so that's why it's come to litigation. We also have a former student also who graduated with a PhD in philosophy. And he describes himself as a progressive classical liberal. And because of some of his beliefs about classical liberalism, he wouldn't even be able to apply for certain jobs at the university now because they have these requirements that you agree to certain ideologies or political views that he doesn't actually believe. And then we also have a couple of political scientists who are experiencing the same sorts of problems.
Yeah, so certainly spanning quite a wide spectrum there of areas of study and backgrounds. It's such an interesting case. We've got to go to commercial break now, but when we come back, I want to talk about what exactly the statutory duty to be non-political actually means. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Canadian Justice, where we're discussing a new lawsuit against the University of British Columbia, alleging that the institution is failing in its duty of neutrality by taking political positions that undermine academic freedom. So, Josh, the University of British Columbia is governed by a piece of legislation called the Universities Act. And part of that statute requires a university to be, quote, non political. Can you explain what that means, what the statutory duty is?
Yeah, so the University of British Columbia, like all the universities in BC, has this requirement in the act. It says they need to be non-sectarian and non-political in principle. And University of British Columbia was actually one of the first public universities. It was created to be a university for all British Columbians. And this was in contrast to what came before, which is where you had these sort of sectarian universities associated with various religious groups, for example. To be a university for all British Columbians, you really have to stay out of politics. And we're not saying that individual professors or students can't have political opinions. It's quite the opposite. We're saying that in order for professors and students to be able to have a wide-ranging opinions and to follow that in their academic inquiries, the administration really just needs to stay out of these things.
Now, the issue that you outline in the lawsuit is that the university itself has taken a number of positions that you call political. And I want to go through them. I think we can probably start with what, in my view, is the most obvious. The university has made statements on the Israel Hamas war. So, Professor Tresco, can you tell me what statements university has made about that topic and how you view that as taking a political position as an institution and how that might undermine academic freedom?
Sure. So some of the sort of constituent units within the University of British Columbia and sort in the name of the University of British Columbia have come out with statements. Faculties like my faculty, the Faculty of Creative and Critical Studies, a department, an institute, but most alarmingly, I think, is the UBC Okanagan Senate, which represents the faculty in its pursuit of its academic mission, and it had a statement come out last spring that condemned Israel. The original motion was simply to condemn Israel for its genocide. There was a motion on the floor to include a condemnation of Hamas for its violence. Uh, Either way, it is a political statement that weighs in on debatable matters, especially when Israel is being accused of genocide um, and I should say, violation of international laws. That these are debatable matters, and the Senate is in effect taking a position on behalf of all the members of the faculty of UBC Okanagan.
Yeah, and presumably, if you are a person at UBC who studies, for example, the laws of armed conflict, this might create a chilling effect, I would think, about taking a position on this very issue, a highly fraught political one that might be run counter to the official institutional statement made by the Senate there. Josh, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, so I just want to add what we're talking about when we talk about what's political and what isn't political. Political means something more than just nonpartisan. It means when we're talking about, how we govern ourselves as a polity. Something that in the case law, the Human Rights Tribunal, for example, in BC, has said political is about social cooperation, and so I can't imagine an example that would be better than of a political issue than what whether or not to say Israel is committing genocide. That's exactly the type of thing where people are trying to sort that out. and decide as a government what the position on that should be.
Yeah, and Josh, I think that there is actually some case law from BC about what exactly it means to be political. Anything you can really briefly add there?
Yeah, so it really comes down to this question of social cooperation. People often think, oh, well, non-political, that just means you don't side with the NDP or you don't side with the conservatives. But it means more than that. It means about when we're trying to figure out the right answer as a group on these political issues, whether the law should be changed, whether the law should stay the same, things like that.
Yeah, so there is case law about what this term actually means in the context of BC, which is really interesting. We've got to go to commercial break now, but we'll talk about some of the other claims in this lawsuit when we come back. Welcome back to Canadian Justice, where we're discussing a brand new lawsuit against the University of British Columbia for actions the litigants in this case say are chilling academic free speech, academic freedom. Now, one of the claims in this lawsuit, Professor Tresco, is that the university is engaging in sort of political action by requiring those who are applying for faculty positions to express agreement with, fidelity to, or loyalty to DEI doctrines or other ideological beliefs as a condition to applying for that position. Maybe you can expand on what exactly the university is requiring and how, in your view, it's a political requirement.
Well, the departments or faculties that are advertising for positions are asking applicants to have a kind of a really a resume of engagement with EDI principles and EDI doctrines and kind of even in effect social activism. Uh, these these principles of and values of DEI really come out of a lot of postmodernist thought and are asking often for disruption of social and political order or questioning of it, and perfectly valid on the part of university faculty and students to ask these kinds of questions or to engage in these kinds of things, but to require it of an applicant means that that the pool is now selective and that there is no opportunity really for those who don't uh, conform to those kinds of things or uphold those kinds of values, that they have no place to apply, and it kind of is it's creeping into developing a sort of a select form of social and political values within the institution.
Josh, anything you want to add there on this DEI statement that faculty are required? For example, I think you mentioned that one of the applicants in the case is a former graduate student, and this was in particular affecting him.
Yeah, so that former graduate student, his name's Nathan Cockram. He describes himself as a progressive classical liberal, and classical liberal tenets, that particular philosophy would say that you judge individuals by their merit. You don't want to be judging them on dimensions like race or gender. EDI principles, on the other hand, say that the focus needs to be quality of outcome rather than quality of opportunity. And so there's a real tension there. There's an academic debate that's to be had, but he, as an academic who is a classical liberal, couldn't even apply for many jobs at UBC that say things like you must commit strongly to EDI principles in order to even work here, and that's the problem. You need to be able to have academics who can debate these things, so we can figure out who's right in our polity.
Now, Josh, another part of the lawsuit, part that's actually received the most media attention, is the part of the claim that says UBC has made statements that it is on unceded Indigenous land, as well as requiring land acknowledgement. So, why do you view those as political?
So when you make a claim that UBC is on unceded Indigenous land, what you're saying is that UBC is not the rightful holder of that land. You're saying that maybe it's stolen land, or that it's a particular Indigenous group that ought to be exercising sovereignty over that land. And whatever position you take on that, whichever side you believe, it's hard to deny that that's not squarely political. This is exactly the type of thing that the tribunal in the past has said is political because it's a debate. It's something that people are trying to figure out as a group. How do we work together and settle these particular issues? So when you make a land acknowledgement, and UBC is making them in official administrative capacities here, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the individual professor who might do that herself or himself, but when you're doing that at
Yeah, you take no issue with
that's
that, of
right. Yes,
course.
that's protected by academic freedom, and it's the ability to be able to say either that, take that position on a land acknowledgement, or the opposite that we're trying to protect. But it becomes this official thing when the administration has taken a side. It's really hard for us to have those academic discussions on campus.
No, I mean, it's a complex and pretty nuanced position that a lot of people have got wrong. A lot of people who have read about the lawsuit have got wrong. When we come back from commercial break, I want to talk about what they're getting wrong and why these critics are so misunderstanding the case. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Canadian Justice, where we're discussing a new lawsuit that alleges that the University of British Columbia is undermining academic freedom and creating a chill on academics by taking political positions on various issues. One of those parts of the claim is about statements UBC has made about being on unceded land and generally related to land acknowledgements. Now, Josh, I think the CCF has made it very clear that the claim is against UBC is not challenging Indigenous rights or title. That the claim is not saying professors should not be allowed to make land acknowledgements. Of course, that is an expression of academic freedom. But nevertheless, there has been a lot of misunderstanding about the claim because I think these are all very fraught issues. And as a result, there's been some pretty angry reaction to it by some people who have misinterpreted what you're saying. So what is the position that you're taking on Indigenous title and rights, and what do you think the critics are getting wrong?
Well, the position we're taking really extends no further than the claim that these are political statements when you make an unceded land acknowledgement. That's it. We have no interest in affecting Indigenous rights or title. Whatever rights or title exists, that's for courts to determine, and it's really kind of beside the point here. So I can understand why people might take issue with our lawsuit because they frankly haven't read it, or they don't really understand what we're getting at here, which is that the academic freedom is infringed when people are unable to make up their own minds and make their own statements on these things because their employer, the person that decides whether perhaps they get a promotion or get hired or get their degree, has taken position on these things.
So, Professor Trusco, what are you asking as relief? What do you want the court to do with this case? Are you asking for a specific order? Maybe you can explain what result you're hoping to get here.
Well, you know, I think much of that Mr. Haas can speak to better than I, but I would just say this much. That all of the petitioners here are not simply voicing a grievance or a complaint about what UBC is doing. Of course, we want UBC to be a place of openness to academic freedom and, of course, to freedom of speech. But we're especially interested in UBC having a strong reputation for its integrity in regard to matters of its research, of its academic freedom, of its education. Both Professor Irvin and I have been members of UBC's Board of Governors, and we're concerned with UBC's reputation. We understand that that's very important, and that these matters are important. That UBC maintain its reputation. As for the specific relief that we're seeking, I think I should defer to the lawyer here to answer those questions.
Yeah, Josh, can you explain what you're asking for?
Yeah, well, in layman terms, we're essentially asking for UBC to follow the law, to follow the statute, stop being political, and What that would look like would be to, rescind some of the statements it's made that are political, like the UBCO Senate statement that Professor Tresco spoke to, and to, stop using making these land acknowledgements in its official administrative capacity in those contexts where it is going to infringe on academic freedom.
To essentially be a neutral institution, and that's what is required by law. Do you think that this case, I understand the act, the Universities Act applies across BC. So if you're successful in this claim, Josh, would that apply to other universities in the province?
Yeah, I think that if we're successful in this claim, other universities would immediately act and do what the court asked UBC to do. And frankly, we don't even have to get there necessarily. Like universities could act now if they wanted to protect institutional neutrality and academic freedom by passing their own policies, and we hope that some of them will do that.
Wonderful. Well said. Josh Jahaz of the CCF and Professor Michael Tresco, thank you both so much for joining me today. It's a fascinating lawsuit, and I'm really excited that the CCF is supporting this case. I wish you the best and a success in your claim. Thank you so much. We've heard today about the importance of academic freedom and how it's being undermined at the University of British Columbia. Will this new lawsuit improve things for faculty and students and bring the university back to its purpose of exploring ideas without fear of reprisal? You be the judge. Thanks for watching, and remember, a freer Canada starts with you.